It is just so weird being here all alone. It's nothing like living with myself.
Welcome to The Cutting Room Floor, the show where you get the behind-the-scenes stories on all of your favorite creators' favorite projects. I am Liam, and this week we are jumping ahead in time from the past couple of weeks to look at my 2020 series, Living with Myself, and the 5-year reunion special. Let's get into this. So, let's knock off the big things right off the bat. The inspiration. It's heavily inspired by Ryan Higa's Schizo series, where it was him sitting in a room talking, playing a bunch of characters. If you guys have not picked up on that, it might just be because you're not familiar with the series, which I totally get. But I'm a big fan of him. He is one of my inspirations for YouTube, and I've taken a lot of things, and one of those things was Schizo. I really wanted to make a series like that where I played all the characters, because I play a lot of the characters. But I finally had the opportunity to do that during COVID. Remember that lockdown a couple years ago? It gave me an opportunity because I was home all the time. I had schoolwork, but it wasn't really that much. Remember, I'm in grade 12. So 2020, I am 17 years old, in grade 12, just into the pandemic, and I'm getting bored. We're trying to figure it out. I don't know how long I'm going to be home. I'm just trying to make it work. And an opportunity comes along. A COVID quarantine film festival. I got sent to me on Instagram of hey, you should check this out. I just gotten off the finishing Smile. I just finished this short film, and I was really getting back into YouTube and the making stuff. And I was like, I really want to see what I can do. This is forcing me to do something where it's just me. And it was a different beast. It was a completely different beast. But it started off as a one-off. You know, it was meant to be a short film. I was like, okay, I got the Schizo inspiration. You know, we have characters you'll see later on. They're not directly related. Well, let me know in the comments if you guys actually can match up which Living Myself character matches up to which Higa Schizo character. The first comment to get it right will get a shout out next week's episode. But getting back onto it, it started off as a one-off. It was not even called Living Myself originally. It was called An Unbearable Situation, because the prompt was I don't have it. I cannot find it anywhere. But the original prompt was an unbearable situation, which is why in the episode 1, even though it is a short film, it is meant to be a one-off. It's its own thing. I do this is such an unbearable situation. Like the stare right at the camera. That's not an awkward because I'm weird in front of the camera. That was purposeful. But whatever. But it started off as this one-off. Me in my room alone doing a short film. I didn't have a lot of experience doing short films. We had just finished Smile, so that was short film number 3. I've only done 3 at this point. Yeah, I'm comfortable in front of the camera at this point, but am I very comfortable playing all these characters, doing all the roles? No. And this was a bigger thing, because it wasn't just that I was playing the characters, I was playing the role. I also had continuity to keep in mind. I had to set up in my room and figure out how all these characters fit. It was a lot. It was a lot of steps. But it was something I was really excited about doing. And it gave me a big, big, big opportunity to bring back, I think, my only character at the time. Maybe one of a couple, but only one, really. That being Kevin. Which we'll talk about the Kevin miniseries and those sketches with Kevin before Living with Myself, but at a later date. So stay tuned for that. But I had so much fun making this first episode, and not only did I have a lot of fun, it did well. It got a lot of really good feedback from people. I didn't win at the festival. I went in a different direction, but I went in a way that originally I was like, maybe I could do more one-offs like this, like Higa doing those like Schizo videos of like once in a while we show up, and I wrote a couple of those, but I was like, I don't know. And when writing the original Unbearable Situation, I kind of had a couple of ideas that I decided not to go with when I made it. But then after making the first episode, I sat down and I was like, wait a minute, what am I doing? I got something, I have the ideas. And so I sat down, and because the first episode was just such a good experience, I wrote a full story for the series. Granted, it wasn't super in-depth. The way I did it, I had a basic overview of how I wanted all the episodes to work. I had I think 10 episodes originally I wrote. I didn't do 10 episodes, but I had a bunch of episodes, and I pretty much had this end goal of it was going to be this whole thing of building off of unbearable situation where Liam thinks they're fake, but then they're not. And so I sat down and I wrote, and I got this kind of whole idea of it's going to be turned into them. And originally it was going to be them just showing up at other projects and just getting their own stories. And I have actually a couple of series for these characters following Living Myself that I just haven't made yet. But it was my first actual attempt at making a series where it was the ongoing narrative throughout it. And so I was, week to week uploading and making stuff. It wasn't every week. I think I did it every 2 weeks, just to make it more reasonable for myself. These are a big undertaking, but we'll get into that for in a minute. But I had a lot of fun making these, and then I had it worked out to get people involved. Obviously, I couldn't have people here, but like in Connected Apart, the whole point of that was doing this Zoom call, and it was the most people I'd had to organize together and act in front of. And I mean, you can see it. Again, you can see the lack of experience everyone has, but it was just really cool to get that many people that were interested in helping me out with a project. These were all people that would watch the first one and be like, this is really cool. And it really liked the characters and liked the idea. And so when I pitched them of, hey, I'd love to have you in this episode, it's just like a little help out. They were down, they were in, which was perfect. But I really fell in love with these characters. Kevin was an existing character. I have to say, it gave me an opportunity to completely flesh him out. I don't think that the Kevin in the 5-year reunion special, or even like in episode whatever of Living Myself, is the same one as the miniseries. I think they are separate characters. It's just there's an evolution into this one. But I really fell in love with these characters, and I felt a lot of pride in the work that I've been doing, because this was a new step for me. Doing a scripted sketch series regularly coming out, it was a big thing, because if you've been a fan of the channel for a long time, if you don't even know who I am, this is the first time seeing me, I had a big thing with consistency for my first couple of years on YouTube. I still do at times, but I would upload a video saying I'm back, and then disappear for a couple of months, and then come back, and then... So to not only be consistent, but consistent with the same thing of making the series, because remember, this is before The Cult of Mara. This was my toes dipping into the idea of a narrative, of an ongoing narrative over a period of time. And it was really cool, and because it was also just me doing it, it gave me a kind of interesting experience to have something close to my belt. And as the episodes went on, the ongoing narrative kind of came more clear, and people were asking me questions. They're like, what's going on? Like, where's it? Like, what's the next episode? Where's this going next? And that was a really cool feeling, and a really cool experience to have people so interested in what I had made that they were asking questions and actively trying to find out more. But it was a lot of work making Living Myself, I'm not gonna lie. And you guys, again, if you've been following the channel, when I made the 5-year reunion special, you guys kind of an idea. But I've just adjusted. I've grown from my original plan, the way I used to write videos. And I did this with short films too. I haven't touched on it in Rules of Survival because it wasn't so much then, but Smile is a very heavily one where I did this heavily. I think that's the right word. It's one where I did this style. But the way that I wrote for the longest time, I used to have lights on the top of my walls in my room that would move to music. So what I would do, I called this deafening the noise. Which is a terrible, terrible thing. And it was probably really bad for my ears. I would blast music as loud as I could get it, have the lights flashing, and because it's louder, they're like constantly changing every single time there's something going on. And I'd lay on my floor and I would just write. And I would free write. That's what the strategy was. I was free writing. But at the time I didn't have this, for whatever reason, I wasn't doing it without needing all that sensory overload. Because I was overloading my eyes and my ears, so I couldn't stop and talk to myself. And it was a big thing back then where I would write something, or I'd think of something, I'd be like, no, it's stupid. Or instead of writing something, I would get into talking to myself, and then I'd finish and I'd be like, shoot. And I'm so excited to get into talking about Smile, because Smile has so many fun things that I did. And this, I built off a lot of stuff with Smile, but pretty much the way that the episodes worked, and this is, I think, my procrastinated nature. I feel like that's not the right term. I procrastinate. Okay, I don't stay on topic for extended periods of time. I get distracted easily and I push things off. Not that I'm saying that I push this off, but what I would do is I upload it on Fridays. Thursday at like 1 p.m. my school would finish. Thursday at 1 p.m. I would write the entire episode. Probably closer to like 3. I would write the entire episode. Then I would stay up and film it straight through. And these took a long time to edit. Or sorry, where am I going with this? These took a long time to film. Because it's not just 5 different characters. It's Liam, me, sitting in a place, going through my lines, doing 2-3 takes, trying to remember where everybody is in the room and getting used to that. And obviously, as I went through it, it got easier. But for the first little bit, it was hard. But I'd sit here, I would do my lines, I would do my takes, and then, in recording, move the entire setup around. Because my room was also a lot more cramped. I made the space work, but there's a reason Kevin's up on a ledge, just sitting there. It's because there's nowhere for him to sit. But I had 2 big box lights, plus my camera on a tripod. Plus, I needed my notebook where I had my scripts, because I wrote all my scripts by hand. I wrote my scripts by hand. But I would move everything around, and I tried to be good with it, and I tried to go in one direction. But there were some times where I'm like, oh, this is a really Kevin-heavy episode, so let me skip Liam and do Kevin. And then, oh, this is a really, like, Larry-heavy episode. Well, let me do Liam's scenes, because I always did Liam's scenes first, unless Liam did a lot of talking. And so I would do Liam, and then I would skip Kevin and go to Larry. And it just meant that then I would have to move the camera back and forth. And a big thing was with framing, remembering where a frame ended and where the next one started, because I couldn't have overlap, which was a big thing. But I did them all in one shot. I would start writing, I would probably stop for dinner, then I would film straight through. And I usually would be filming until 1:32, almost 3 in the morning. Then I would edit. And I think only one episode I was up until 3 filming. Most of them, by 1 a.m., I'm done filming and I can start editing. And again, these are not hard to edit. It's just lining everything up and making sure that everything works. And there was a couple of times where, yes, I would improvise. I had a script, but I would improvise because I want to make things sound more natural, which meant that sometimes I would get into editing and I would really get doing it, and I'd start cutting stuff. And then I'd have this horrible realization that either A, I missed a line, or B, the conversation does make sense because I improvised too much. And with either one, it meant that I had to get back in costume and I had to continue filming. Which then meant that I spent a long time filming. And that 3 a.m. one, that was exactly what happened. I got the card out of the camera, I sat down and started going through the footage. And I hit a place where I was like, wait, this is not in the script. And then now it doesn't make sense. And at that point, you balance. Do I reshoot everybody else? Because again, it's 4 other characters plus the character that I improvised with. So do I get back in costume for 4 of these characters to reshoot all their scenes that I've rewritten so it lines up with what I improvised? Or do I dress up as that one character and just redo their scenes? And it really just depended on how much I like the improvisations or how much I like the changes. And the unfortunate thing was I like the changes. So I would always get back into the whole 5 characters because I also reshoot the original one anyways. But it was an issue and it was a trek, but it took a lot out of me. They would be like 13, 14 hours of everything. Because I was also picking out music, and I did little intro cuts scenes or intros. I think it's just intros. But I also had cold opens. Like I was putting a lot into these, and I saw it pay off. Don't get me wrong, but it's a lot to do, especially when it was pretty much on Thursdays. If I was making one, I would write, film, edit, and then I'd crash until like 12 p.m. the next day because I was exhausted. Because I'm staying up so late to get it edited and filmed. And could I do it ahead of time? Without a doubt. I did it better with a 5-year special. But for season 1, it's not how I did it. And of course, as the characters develop and I figure out who they are more and more, guess what else happens? Those characters become more complex. And the show becomes more complex because now I'm balancing actual characters, not just caricatures and stereotypes. They're actual characters. Leah became a character. She was developed from just being the girl. Larry, more than just the gamer. Logan, more than just the leader. They became characters. And with that also meant that I had to get into the actual story, which meant now instead of just being in the round circle of all of us talking around, where I was going into other rooms in the house, filming things, it just got harder and harder. And that it wasn't terrible, but it just meant there was more thought having to put into these episodes. I also tried to dedicate at least one episode to each character because Liam is the natural me. It was acted up and it was definitely a character for this. But Liam was the least amount of work to get into that mindset. So, Liam was the main character. I mean, it's my channel, so I'm the main character. But that meant that I also want to give a spotlight because as I was developing these characters, I realized I really like these characters. And so I tried to give a spotlight to at least one episode per character. And so there's Nice to Meet You, which is loosely a Larry episode. Larry doesn't actually have a dedicated episode, which I do feel bad about because he is really the only one that doesn't. Because there's the Larry episode connected, Nice to Meet You. Connected Apart is Leah, and to a certain extent, I would say Exposed is also a very Leah episode because I feel like Connected Apart directly links to Exposed more than any of the others. But Kevin's journey is in the name. It's Kevin's episode. And then A Purpose, which was Logan's. Because, again, I developed all these characters, but Logan was still the one that I had the hardest time figuring out who he was beyond just being the leader character. But the way it worked originally was it was meant to be a general like group episode, character specific group, you get how it meant. Instead, it went Unbearable Situation, Not a Dream, Nice to Meet You, Connected Apart, Kevin's Journey, A Purpose, Exposed, and Goodbye, the 2-part finale. Because, again, in my mind, it's just one story that I cut into 2 episodes so I could really get it out and get it done. My favorite episode, and again, I would love to know in the comments down below. I've asked you guys a couple of questions, but I'd love to know in the comments down below what your favorite episode of Living Myself is. My favorite episode, and I love them all, but I love Kevin's Journey. It is, and I think I am a little biased to it because Kevin is my oldest character. You know, Kevin, it's not just like a character that I fell in love with. He's my oldest character, so I have a lot of pride in him and a lot of like, oh. So, Kevin's Journey. I also was really excited about that because I wanted to give a little bit of a journey, a little bit of a filler between the Kevin miniseries of the couple of sketches that had been before and then him showing up in episode 1. And also because I got to do El Diggy. El Diggy should be the clearest connection because he is very much one of the schizo characters. He was when I was originally long before Living Myself, originally being like, okay, how do I do it? And I directly parody the characters like Kaylee, just boom, 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 boom. Hanate is Liam, Ryan is all that. I had El Diggy, and I was like, when I finally came down, I was like, nope, cannot do it. El Diggy's a no. But in this one, it's a one-off. Kevin's Journey is also the most one-off of the entire show, the entire series. El Diggy shows up, and it's just this, it's this short, getting Kevin to be a stereotypical gangster. It's stupid, but it's so funny, and I made myself laugh so hard with the little shoulder tattoo that doesn't even show up well in the final shoot. Because again, I'm just shooting this alone with just me. A lot of this, and I ended up taking a lot of pride of doing it in that way. And could I have made it easier on myself? Without a doubt. But living with myself also meant that I was doing it myself. So I didn't do it with help. I did everything. I set up the camera. I would do a test shot to make sure I had the framing right. Then I would film it. And headache-inducing sometimes. Headache-inducing sometimes. And this one especially, because there would be a lot of scenes where I'd have El Diggy walk and then Kevin walk. Not that bad, right? Except you have to keep in mind that it was El Diggy walking, then Liam going and getting changed into Kevin's outfit, and then Kevin walking. And Kevin's costume was the hardest to get into. Because it was a swimsuit from when I was like 11, 12. I was 17 at this point. I'd grown a little bit. So it was like first getting into the outfit, but also, I don't know if you guys have put a swim cap on. It's not very comfortable to put on. But I was putting it on and off regularly during this time. And during this shoot especially, it was on, off, on, off, on, off, on, off. But doing it out, this entire episode, for the most part, takes place outside my room. Which was just so much fun. And it was a different environment to bring these characters. And I really thought it was unique. Which I'm happy with. I'm very happy with. I also have to say, I absolutely love Nice to Meet You. Mostly because it has my favorite joke. And a joke that, again, it was one of those things that I envisioned in videos for a while. And it was the screaming match between Larry and Kevin. Because it's also my favorite thumbnail of the entire thing. And again, the thumbnail style came later on. Originally, it was just not that. The Unbearable Situation, like little intro logo screen, that was the thumbnail for the longest time. But it's the blurred and little behind the scenes tip for you guys. Little story. I was nervous about flipping off like middle finger because I was like, I can't do that. That's not good. That's not what a good person does. So I blurred, and this is also part of the reason why I blurred it, is because I did my ring finger and I did that. And so at that angle, you can't overly tell it's not my middle finger, especially when you blur it. But I just think it's one of my favorite ones. And also I gotta play Kevin Unhinged. And Kevin was my favorite character to play of all of them because I didn't have to stay consistent with Kevin. Kevin was an easy joke character that I knew how I was. But when playing Kevin, I could just be stupid and do whatever the heck I wanted with it. I think was super fun to do. And it was such a nice experience to have that character where he was the wild card. Kevin was my wild card character. You can never predict how he was going to act, how he was going to be, what he was going to say. And like, that's why I had Kevin say some outrageous things or some like out of place things. Kevin was my dumb character. Kevin was my favorite character because I could also I had the easiest time writing bits for Kevin or like one-liners that I found was funny. Because everyone else, they have a moderate level of intelligence. Kevin doesn't. At least not the way I was playing him. Kevin's not an idiot, but you get it. And I think I really like more so Goodbye than Exposed. I like both of the finale type episodes, but Goodbye was a really, really interesting experience. Because again, Living Myself is the first extended narrative piece that I'd worked on, I'd done. And so on top of that, it was all these characters. And getting to Goodbye, that was the end of what had been like my entire spring. It was 8 episodes. It's not a small thing, even at like week to week, it's still 2 months. So it was a lot of time and effort I'd put into making Living Myself. So getting to Goodbye, I chose to actually end up lining up when I originally scheduled at all. But I made it the day of my graduation, like COVID graduation, which was in a parking lot. But there was a lot of strong emotions already in me, of like stepping out of that and saying goodbye to that major piece of my life of going to this school and doing like high school and all my friends that I'd seen every day for 10 months a year for 13 years. So there was all those emotions of saying goodbye to that. And I did this on purpose to myself, but I made sure that I filmed goodbye after, because that meant that I had those emotions freshly in me and I could channel that to say goodbye to these characters and wish them well, because this wasn't just it wasn't just the last episode of the series. I didn't have the next thing written for them yet, so this was also saying goodbye to these characters for a little while, and goodbye to the series that had given me a bump. It gave me a boost that I didn't have before. So it was a lot of sadness. And I did, again, I'll let you guys in a little behind the scenes. I did get to the point where I cried a little bit while filming the Liam scene, because that was the saddest one. That was what I filmed last. And goodbye. It is a bittersweet episode. I think it is my favorite in terms of the writing. I think I wrote a lot of good stuff and I didn't really improvise from the script. But it was a really hard episode. And it's one of those things where you really want to get it right. And so I filmed it and I had this image in my head of how I wanted the finale to be. And I had the image in my head of how all the episodes were going to be, and they generally lived up to that. But the finale, goodbye, I was like, I need this. This has to have this specific feel, and this is how I want the final scene to be. I don't want it to be a comedy. I want it to end on a somber note. And so bringing it to the editing room, I'm exhausted because it's late. But I'm sitting there and I'm editing, and I'm like, okay, I think I have it done, but I cannot find the music. And music's such a big thing. It is so necessary and so important for some scenes, because it really can control the emotional feeling. And so I was going and I was just listening to all this royalty-free music, and I'm like, none of this is working. And I was really getting to the point where I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do a living myself, like if I'm gonna be able to finish this properly. And then I found the song, and just putting along the compilation, I listened to it once and I was like, yeah, that's it. That is the finale to Living With Myself. So I got it finished and I put it out. And I ended the series on purpose in a way that left the door open for me to bring the characters back. But at this point, I had started to work on my next series. And so I knew I wasn't just going to be doing the Living Myself characters again. I wasn't just going to continue their stories and keep having these characters show up. I knew I was going to be saying goodbye to them for a little bit of time. I didn't know how long, but I knew I was going to be saying goodbye to them. And then I did The Call to Mara. Again, we'll get into that later and another time. But I said goodbye. I stepped past it and I moved past the series. For a while, I wanted to bring the characters back, but I was stuck because I really liked how I ended it. I wrote a Christmas special. It's a Christmas Carol, but with Live With Myself characters. And that just didn't feel right to bring the characters back for the next time. And then there was the Halloween special. And again, it didn't feel right to bring it back for that. All these different ideas that I had and I still have, but they just didn't feel right to bring them back on this note. I didn't have an issue with bringing the characters back. I just needed to bring them back in the right way, because I'd done so much work and I'd put so much effort into the goodbye episode that I wanted to, because then when I brought them back, it wasn't for a cheap one-off, whatever. Like, I wanted to make sure I brought them back in the right way, and then I would start using the characters again. Because I had a season 2 written. It was very different. Season 2 was much more one-off joke episodes with just featuring these characters in the same, like, sitting in my room. It was a schizo type thing, where instead of having this overarching narrative like the original one had, at this point, it was just different episodes and just self-contained episodes where you could watch one and then watch the next one. You don't really need to watch a previous one. There was no building off that. And the later episodes of Liam and Myself was kind of getting more to that vibe of, oh, here's our cold open intro. Here's the topic for today, and everyone's going to have their piece to say about it, and we're going to move on. And that was where I was getting to, and it just didn't feel right to bring the characters back. And it was my first, like, real foray. Is that the right word? I feel like I say a lot of words I don't actually know if it's the right word. But it was my first real, like, jump into an ongoing narrative like this. And before I knew it, 5 years was right around the corner. It was 5 years. It's been over 5 years since Living Myself first premiered. That's crazy. But out of nowhere, something was right around the corner. I was like, I got to do something for 5 years, because if I miss 5 years, the next milestone's 10 years. And I'd really like to do something for 5 years. But I wanted to celebrate in the right way. And so it finally, I think, gave me the pressure to knock off that mindset of, oh, is this the right way to bring the characters back? And I just got into it. I started writing, and I was like, let me talk to people who have seen the series and who enjoyed the series. Like, what do you want out of a 5-year special? What do you want? What do you expect the characters to have been getting up to? And I had to rewatch the series, you know, like, I forgot what I wrote. And it was intimidating to get back into character. I won't lie to you guys. It was a bit of a scary thing to step back into these characters and feel like I was going to do them justice. Larry, a big thing also, I didn't have the hair anymore. I don't have the same hair. I had the bleached hair for the entire series, but the hair also played a big part in how I differentiated the characters on top of their outfits, and I just didn't have that hair. And I think I made it work. The characters do look different, but I wasn't going to bleach my hair for it. I thought about it, but that idea was shut down pretty quick. But the one thing I haven't talked about was Logan. Logan had an ambiguous accent. It originally was meant to be, I think I went for like an Australian or like a British accent. But the issue is I'm terrible at those. I'm terrible at accents. So it just kind of evolved and changed episode to episode. And even within the episodes, like between lines and takes, my accent would change. And so it was really funny because when I would make the series, when I was about to do Logan scenes, I would just watch the previous episode and listen to how he talked and just keep saying the lines out loud until I started hearing him. And I did the exact same thing doing this. I got everything set up, but a big thing with bringing it back 5 years later, this room is a completely different layout to how it used to be. I have no equipment. I have a lot more experience. And so yeah, while I was intimidated to get back into these characters, man, did it feel good. It felt like I was reconnecting with old friends, like somebody I hadn't talked to in so long, but we just got together and got along so naturally. And that's the thing, is it was so natural for us to just saying us like it was multiple people. It was so natural to get back into the character and actually be these characters again and have those relationships where sitting here and talking to where Leah is sitting, it didn't feel like I was talking to an empty space. I could imagine Leah there, and when I would talk, I could picture and I could hear how she was going to respond to me. And that was a skill that I wasn't sure I was going to be able to get back into. Thank goodness I did. Thank goodness. And it reinvigorated my love for these characters. I'm honestly very, very proud of Living Myself in so many ways. It is a testament to my ability. You know, I really can do it. And so that was really cool. Like, genuinely really cool. But it also helped break some of that writer's block I had. Because I deal with writer's block a lot. Especially if I write an idea out for a project and it just falls through the cracks. It hits in a place that's tough. But after all of these like specials and like more episodes of these characters that just never moved forward past the initial idea stage, to come in with Leah as the president of the United States, or Logan as survival guy, which I just think is so funny. Like, I just had so much fun doing bits for the different characters and bringing up different things they could have been up to. And honestly, the issue wasn't what could they be doing. It was, well, which one do I include in the video? You know? But I don't think I have anything negative to say. I love Living with Myself. It is my first narrative series, and like with Campless, it's something that has a special place in my heart. The difference with this is I feel I can see a lot more of the skill, and I can see the growth episode to episode. And I really love it. And sitting down and talking about how much work and how I would do 14-hour shoot days where I would write, film, edit, upload, promote, just in one, like, it wasn't like I spent a week creating an episode. I did them in a day. And then looking at how everything evolved and how the dialogue changed, and you know, the choices I would make when I was editing, because I would experiment a lot with stuff, and there was a lot of different drafts where they just didn't work the way I was making them. But I changed it around, and it's something I'm really proud of, and it's something that has a lot of good memories for, because it took up a decent portion of my life, especially during that time where it was school and nothing else. So having this series, it's like a nice benchmark to look back and see, like, yeah, it's a really fun thing. My hair changes so much because I wasn't cutting my hair because I didn't want to lose the characters. So my hair just grew longer and longer and longer the longer the series went on. And yeah, we made it to 5 years. It's been over 5 years since Living Myself first started, and I am still so immensely proud and appreciative, because it also is the series that jumped a lot of growth for the channel. A lot of people found the channel during 2020, during that Living Myself period of me making videos. So this is a thank you. It's a project that's so near and dear to my heart. These are characters I love, and I really love talking about them. I talk about them with like pride. I feel a lot of pride talking about not just the characters, but the series. It's something I'm really proud of. And yeah, I also have to say I hated Larry's costume. I hated what I decided, because I wanted to make sure he talked differently too, so I stuffed toilet paper up my nose. Why did I do that? But I did it. I got really good. I was like, yeah, so I'll get one square, rip it in half, and then rip that in half, and then roll it up real good, and stick it up, and that was that. And so I'd finish it, and I would literally just garbage can into it. Disgusting. It was a lot of things that I didn't think about at the time, but doing it now, like, get back into character, woo! Having to put Logan's shirt and everything back on, not my favorite thing. Having to like get a bandana, and again, I don't have all of the costume pieces in moved my room around and stuff, I guess I had lost some of them. So it meant like I have to sit here and I have to make choices on what changes I'm going to make and what things might I leave out. And you know, getting Leah's wig again, that was a different experience because I forgot how much I hated wearing the wigs and how hot it was. But I don't have anything bad to say about it. I love living with myself. I hope you guys do too. Again, let me know in the description. First, let's run them through. Let me know if you guys know how the characters line up between Schizo and this one. What's your favorite episode and who's your favorite Live With Myself character? Because that is the end of the 3rd episode of The Cutting Room Floor. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments what you think of this episode, and let me know what you would like me to cover next. I have projects lined up, but if you guys have a project request that you make, you might be responsible for the next episode. And to wrap this all up, let me know in the comments who your favorite Live With Myself character is. I love you all to death. Do not forget to stay sweet, and I'll see you in another episode very soon.